On September 7, 1953, Maureen Little Mo Connolly became the first woman ever to win the Grand Slam. 2003 marks the 50th anniversary of that remarkable accomplishment, and this is the story of that remarkable woman.
At 18, the little powerhouse holds the American, British, French, and Australian national championships.
Maureen Catherine Connolly was born in San Diego, California on September 17, 1934. The stock market crash of 1929 had led the country into what is known as the Great Depression. 1/3 of the country's labor force was out of work, and Franklin D. Roosevelt was president.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Helen Wills Moody was dominating women's tennis, and little did she know her successor was being born. Maureen's mother, Jessamine Connolly, was an aspiring concert pianist. When Maureen was 4 years old, Jessamine enrolled her in ballet class and played the piano in exchange for tuition. But she preferred baseball with the boys to ballet, and over time grew to become quite popular in the neighborhood for her athletic abilities.
Everyone that was anyone in San Diego that played tennis played at University Heights. And Maureen lived about 30 yards from the University Heights tennis courts.
Maureen daily passed those tennis courts 2 doors from her house, but always thought the girls she saw playing looked ridiculous. It wasn't until she saw 2 top local men playing that she was captivated.
And she just watched, and she was amazed by it and really enjoyed watching. And she started picking up balls for this coach. And he said, you know, if you'll come by every day and pick up balls for me while I'm teaching, then I will give you lessons. And that was the first time that she played. And what I understand is from the moment she picked up a tennis racket, she was just taken with the sport.
And immediately, you know, she took some lessons from Wilbur Folsom, who had the pro shop at University Heights.
Wilbur Folsom owned the tennis shop adjacent to the courts since 1933.
Maureen got so she could hit the ball in a hurry, and she began to show a lot of talent.
Wilbur convinced Jessamine to buy Maureen her own racket, which he sold to her for $1.50, and offered her lessons for 50 cents, half his going rate.
But he, right from the beginning, that man had an eye. It was when she was just kind of beginning with him. He said, she can go all the way. And my mom said, oh, you know, you shouldn't be putting those ideas in her head. And my aunt had the same reaction. It was like, well, we want her to do it, but, you know, let's not get her too excited too soon.
Fate had indeed beckoned, and it was becoming quite clear to everyone, including Maureen, that she had a future in tennis.
Her coach, her first coach, Wilbur Folsom, thought that really she needed to be a right-handed player, and there was also some taboos of being a left-handed player at that time.
She even made the switch from natural left-hander by tireless practice.
She started volleying balls in her driveway.
She would go out every night for hours at a time, banging against a backboard to strengthen her right arm.
Probably drove the neighbors crazy, batting the ball against the garage door. And her mother, who was a perfectionist herself, should have recognized perfectionism in her child. And she didn't disapprove of it. She just, once in a while, was sort of upset that she couldn't get her to come in to eat.
Maureen's tournament career began when she was 10 and a half at the La Jolla Playground event. She made it to the finals only to be defeated by another up-and-comer, Ann Bissell. Avenging the loss became her single goal in life. The next tournament was at the University Courts Playground event. To Maureen's disappointment, Ann didn't bother to enter. However, Maureen won the tournament and took home her first trophy.
I oftentimes find it amazing that Mom really did become the tennis player that she did. She grew up in very modest means. Her mother really did not make ends meet, so she grew up in a very, very difficult family life.
Maureen's parents divorced when she was 3, and her father disappeared from her life a year later.
As it turns out, that because he couldn't handle the war very well, or what happened to him during the war, he began to drink and unfortunately lost himself in drink. And he did not want her to see him this way, and so he allowed everybody to believe that he had died.
Maureen and her mother went to live with Jessamyn's Aunt Gertrude.
Aunt Gertrude owned the home that she and her husband bought in the 20s, and she wanted Aunt Jess to live there with her. She was extremely sweet. She adored Maureen, and, you know, she was the rock of the family. And Aunt Jess was very, very self-assured and strong, very strong. I would say there were 2 strong women that lived together and managed to do it well.
At the start of Maureen's tournament career, her mother remarried Augustus Burst. He was the first male infiltration into the otherwise all-female household.
He really disapproved of Mother's tennis. He thought it was a waste of time. He thought that she should be doing girl things, other girl things. There wasn't any money for this, and that she shouldn't be going after these pipe dreams. And it was a very negative household to be in. And yet my grandmother, who many felt did not go up against this gentleman, her new husband, very much. That's one area where she really stood her ground and said that my daughter will play tennis if she wants to, and she'll go as far as she wants to. And I think that's one of the things that actually caused their divorce.
The responsibility that Maureen felt for her mother's sacrifice contributed to her fear of losing.
I think a lot of it had to do with her mother, because her mother was a winner. I mean, whatever she tried, she had to be the best, and she instilled that in Maureen. And I think she was really, on some level, afraid to lose and have to face her mom. Not that her mom was wicked or evil, but I think that was a factor, perhaps.
Maureen's fear of losing created a desperation to win, and to win at all costs. Maureen's first major tournament was the Harper Inc. Maureen made it to the finals, and so did Ann Bissell. The renowned sports writer for the San Diego Union, Nelson Fisher, was at the tournament to watch the favored Ann Bissell. But he had placed his bet on the wrong girl that day when the avenging Maureen created an upset so spectacular it left the spectators in awe. Nelson wrote the article for the event and was the first of many to compare Maureen to the great Helen Wills Moody. Nelson also compared Maureen to the USS Missouri battleship Mighty Mo, whose fierce cannon power struck terror into its enemies during World War II. He penned the mighty 5'4" powerhouse, Little Mo. The press had a field day with that. She began creating quite a buzz, wiping up the West Coast and taking home the trophy in every event.
Maureen, I say again, her progress was so rapid, that she got to be so good that Wilbur Folsom, who was giving her lessons at the time, said that he carried her about as far as he could, that she might have needed some more sophisticated teaching.
She then moved on to Eleanor Tennant, familiarly known as Teach Tennant.
Eleanor Tennant was the tennis professional at the Beverly Hills Tennis Club.
She was the one that really put the polish on Alice Marble.
Teach initially worked on strengthening her serve and ground strokes and making her more of an offensive player. Teach also suggested she take ballet and tap dancing once again to further improve her footwork. And she requested that Nelson Fisher take Maureen to boxing matches in order not only to study the fighter's footwork, but also the art of the fight.
She had, first of all, she was the nicest individual I ever met as a tennis player. But she had a competitive spirit. If she'd had a gun, she'd have been a killer. There was no mercy from her when you were on the court with her.
Teach Tennant fueled that competitive spirit. To her, tennis was not a game, it was a battle, and she was determined to make Maureen a warrior on the court.
Eleanor Tennant was very controlling, and when she coached you, she was your, that was your life, her and your tennis, and that was it. And she didn't want any other outsiders or any competitors to get close to Maureen at all.
In 1949, at 14 years of age, Maureen made it to the Junior Nationals. In the finals, she faced Laura Lou John. Laura Lou had beaten Maureen at the Hotel del Coronado just previously, so Maureen was poised for revenge. In a complete annihilation, Maureen, at 14, became the youngest champion ever to win the Junior Nationals. At home, Maureen was voted Southern California Athlete of the Month. But soon she would face challengers of a different caliber when she entered the women's division of the Pacific Southwest Championship. 7 years older and an international tennis star, Shirley Fry represented the first of the new breed of opponents. Perhaps Shirley didn't take her young challenger as seriously as she should have. Maureen took the first set from her. However, Shirley had to pour on the heat to win the next two. This time, though, defeat ignited a confidence in Maureen rather than bitterness when she recognized she could soon beat someone of Shirley's stature. A year later, after successfully defending her junior national title, she was back competing in the U.S. Women's Championships at Forest Hills. Maureen won her early rounds and now faced an even mightier opponent than Shirley Fry, her idol, Doris Hart, who was, according to Maureen, the best player in the world. In the entrance to the stadium courts, a plaque on the wall reads, "It's not whether you win or lose, but how you play the game." In the second set, Maureen shot to a 4-3 lead. Her game then quickly fell apart at the idea of winning against her idol, and Doris took the match. But this time again, defeat felt tolerable. She had held her own against the great Doris Hart. At 16, Maureen graduated from Cathedral High School and soon after was the youngest player ever asked to play for her country on the prestigious Whiteman Cup team. This time, she played alongside her recent adversaries, Shirley Fry and Doris Hart. During her match, she was tenacious. Her strokes were precise. Her agility was phenomenal. The pressure was on, and if America was going to lose, it was not going to be because of Little Mo Connolly. But America didn't lose, and for the first time, Maureen felt an equality with the country's finest players. Threatened by Maureen's newfound friendship with the top players, Teach developed a new strategy for her protégé to win. She would knock the pedestal right out from under Doris Hart.
So Eleanor had some situations, and I always got along with Eleanor, but she had some things that were her own little M.O., which may or may not have been choice.
Teach told Maureen that she heard Doris say she thought Maureen was a spoiled brat and that she was going to give her a tennis lesson.
That was so wrong. I mean, really. That was Teach Tennant. That was her way, you know. She wanted to get Maureen upset at me, obviously. And that was a big lie, what she told her. So I never in my life said that about Maureen.
Maureen saw blinding red when she got her chance on the center court at Forest Hills against her new foe, Doris Hart. Little Mo showed her opponent who needed the tennis lesson. Then she headed to the finals.
For the women's crown, the finalists are Maureen Connolly of San Diego at left and Shirley Fry of Akron. Though the crowd for this match is slim, it's nevertheless one of the most historic contests in tennis history. For Maureen in near court is only 16 years old. If she can win, she'll be the youngest ever to wear the crown. Miss Connolly's point. But here's the biggest moment of all. The score is tied at 1 set each. Maureen has surged ahead in the final set, and it's now match point. She wins. Maureen Connolly is national women's champion at Sweet 16.
The girl with the golden racket beat Shirley Fry to become the youngest ever U.S. women's champion, a record she would hold for 28 years. Maureen was voted Woman Athlete of the Year by the Associated Press. In every match of every tournament, Maureen was thrilling audiences with her hard-hitting cannon power. And much like her predecessor, Little Miss Poker Face, Helen Wills Moody, she was intimidating her opponents with her intense focus and concentration.
There was no question that from the minute when she walked in that court, she was all business. No smiling, no chattering, no nothing.
She wasn't there to do anything but play tennis. You know, and she couldn't tell you what happened on the next court. If somebody fell over or burned down, she wouldn't have known because she was playing her match like that.
Historic Wimbledon, Britain's shrine to tennis.
In 1952, Maureen's dream to play at Wimbledon came true at 17. But before she could take the court, she had to face the toughest match of her career, this time against her own coach, Eleanor Tennant.
Teach was her real leader and director, and told her how to do things. And when she was in Wimbledon for the first time, she had a terrible shoulder problem. And so Teach said, "Oh, you've got a sprained shoulder, and if you keep on playing, you'll ruin yourself."
She didn't want Maureen to play, and Maureen felt that this was her time, and she felt that the injury wasn't going to be enough to keep her from winning at least, or have a chance to win.
And anyway, she called a press conference and told them that she thought Maureen should pull out. She was sick and everything, and Maureen got furious with her because Maureen knew she wasn't that bad, you know.
That was one of the causes of the breakup. It's like you have with the managers today or the agents today. It's the big, I am the big shot. Focus on me, don't focus on the player. And that's what led to the breakup. And Maureen was quick to see that the time had passed for Eleanor to be of any further help to her.
She was writing articles for the newspaper and getting paid. Teach was. So she was making money off Maureen all the time.
And Maureen went to a doctor, and he said, "You have bursitis." And so she told Teach she was going to go ahead and play, and Teach said, "If you do, Maureen, I'm leaving." And so Maureen said, I'm going to play.
You know, it was just Teach's way of covering up in case Maureen lost. That's why she did it.
Maureen was such a quick study. She milked Tennant of all of her knowledge in very quick time. But now Eleanor didn't understand that and wanted to hang on to the best meal ticket she ever had and became too possessive, and Maureen said, "Get lost." Simple.
Little Mo wins the final at Wimbledon, defeating Louise Brough 7-5, 6-3. She was the youngest woman Wimbledon champion of the century.
And that's got to be a hard thing for a teacher like Tennant. And clearly she had a very strong reaction to it. And it further emphasizes the strength of Connolly, who, you know, and then you have to keep remembering how old she was. She was a kid. She was a kid. And she goes and she brushes off the advice of Tennant, who was her mentor, and off she goes to go on and win and win and win and win and win.
Little Mo was ranked #1 in the world and voted Woman Athlete of the Year for the second year in a row. After her Wimbledon win, she announced to the press she was going home to San Diego to be a copy boy for the San Diego Union, sending Nelson into a panic to find her a job at the paper. They gave her her own column, Little Mo Says. She would write about a variety of sporting events, from bullfighting to skin diving, and she wrote diary-like entries of her travels abroad.
National Tennis Championships at Forest Hills, New York. 17-year-old Little Mo, Maureen Connolly, defending her title against veteran Doris Hart. In the far court now, Maureen's speed and style impresses even the animal kingdom. Miss Hart serving, fights gamely, but the fleet San Diego youngster is headed for victory in straight sets, 6-3, 7-5. The winning point, and with her victory at Wimbledon in July, Little Mo is hailed as worldwide queen of the courts.
She defended her title that year at Forest Hills, and it was there that she met Nell and Harry Hopman, who both would play an important role in her future. Upon arrival from her recent triumphs, the city of San Diego honored Little Mo with a ticker tape parade down Broadway. The city was so proud of their hometown superstar they wanted to buy her a car. She said, "Thanks, but I'd rather have a horse."
Her other great passion was horses. She always loved horses. And she was more than thrilled when the city of San Diego gave her a champion Tennessee walker, and his name was Colonel Maryboy. She was at the barn one day getting ready to ride Colonel Maryboy. She came up to the barn with, I think it was my uncle, and she looked out to the riding rink and she saw this horse that was obviously cantering around the rink. It was obvious that someone had fallen off. And she got out of the car and she asked somebody, you know, "Is the person okay? Who is that?" And they said, "Oh, not to worry, it's just Norman Brinker. He falls off horses all the time."
Norman Brinker was the youngest member of the 1952 Olympic equestrian team.
And so she said, "I wondered if you would be good enough to let me write an article about you." And I said, "Well, I'd be delighted. I'd be delighted," in one of her columns. So that was it. That was my introduction to her, and we just had a great time.
Maureen Connolly has lost only one match to Cupid.
She was totally gone, you know. And there was no doubt that she'd made up her mind. That was the man for her.
Perry T. Jones, the secretary of the Southern California Tennis Association, along with Nell and Harry Hopman, arranged for Maureen and Julie Sampson to go on a world tour, setting up the opportunity for Maureen to capture every major title within one calendar year.
Don Budge is the one who created the idea of the Grand Slam, winning all 4 majors in the same year, the Australian, French, Wimbledon, and the U.S. Open. And when Mr. Hopman said, "Maureen, you go for it," she said, "Great." And she had the support of him and also Mrs. Hopman.
The evening before she was to leave, Norman gave Maureen a ring and popped the question. She was ecstatic. While Maureen was in Australia, Harry agreed to coach her using the same Army boot camp technique he used for his Australian Davis Cup team. However, it was Harry's wife Nell who ultimately revolutionized Maureen's game. She convinced her that the fear and hate strategy she had always used to win matches was not the best, nor the only way to win. She was a good enough player, and a love for the game and love for her opponents would be a healthier and certainly a more enjoyable way to play tennis.
And you can win a lot of championships by fear, but I don't think the process of it is worth it. And I think that's probably what happened to Maureen after a while. She's thinking, what is this? This is ridiculous. I don't need to put up with all this.
Maureen, having already claimed the Australian title that year, went to Rome where she met the Pope. However, she lost to Doris Hart in the Italian Championships. When she went to Paris, she beat Doris to become the French champion. Wimbledon 1953, Little Mo defeated Doris in the final 8-6, 7-5, playing to win but playing from her heart. The match goes down in history as one of the greatest tennis matches ever to be played. Those who saw it never forgot it.
We just were both on that day, which is unusual in a final. But that day we were both just hitting everything the way we wanted to, hitting lines, doing everything right.
Little Mo knew she'd been in a tennis match, and 16,000 spectators knew they had seen one.
It was just an excellent match. I think our tennis was a very high caliber, and that's what the people enjoyed, and it made us feel good to know that we produced that tennis that day.
I will tell you, it was a very, very close match with Doris Hart. We were both very tense and nervous, and I feel I was very lucky just to win a few extra points there.
At that juncture, she was unquestionably the best in the world.
She was a superstar. She was always in the paper.
She was the third most written about woman in the world. First was Mamie Eisenhower, second was Madame Pundit, and third was Maureen.
1953 at Forest Hills. She again played Doris Hart in the finals. At the zenith of her career, Maureen became the first woman, and at the age of 18, the youngest in history ever to win the Grand Slam by claiming all 4 major singles titles within 1 year. Little Mo played better tennis than any other girl in the world. Maureen set her sights on turning professional, and Norman started training for the modern pentathlon. The long-distance courtship proved too much for the young couple. Maureen and Norman broke off their engagement.
Charging into the arena in Madrid, El Toro is full of vim and vinegar. To the fans, the wilder the bull and the wilier the bullfighter spell danger and excitement.
Maureen has compared her strategy tactics to that of a matador. She too would weaken the opponent by forcing them to run continuously and drain their stamina before going in for the kill.
The holiday throngs applaud the skill and the baiting technique of the man in the ring.
She had to find the weaknesses of her opposition.
Got Mr. Bull cowed.
And so she was always, thinking about it. It was not just going out playing, hitting a ball.
But bullfighting isn't all swift, decisive mastery and thunderous applause. There are times when El Toro proves to be the master. And then he's lucky to get away alive.
Basically, it was as if you were really thinking through a whole program and thinking through, the point of really a new war, the war of winning a tennis match.
Maureen was absolutely unbeatable. Adored by fans, she was becoming a legend in her own time. She was the greatest phenom ever seen on the courts.
Fire!
She hardly lost a set. A set.
Playing the most brilliant tennis of her career and with an unstoppable domination, she was in a whirlwind of winning. She wins the Italian championships in Rome, and after successfully defending her French title, she was back at Wimbledon to defend again.
Now Little Mo, Maureen Connolly of San Diego, one opponent away from a third straight Wimbledon championship. Challenging her is Louise Bruff of Beverly Hills in the All-U.S. Women's Final. Taking the first set 6-2, Miss Connolly falters only briefly in the second, then her cannonading style proves decisive. Little Mo serves with the game at match point. There it is, that Connolly girl whom they're ranking with the all-time greats does it again.
On July 20th, 1954, 2 weeks after her third consecutive Wimbledon win, Maureen's tournament career took a tragic turn. During a break from tennis, she was riding her Tennessee Walker Colonel Mary Boyd down a deserted trail in Mission Valley. A cement truck was approaching her. The driver lost control of the truck, and the chute from the back broke loose, catching her leg and slicing into her right calf muscle. Colonel Maryboy was unharmed.
The cement truck hit her and then went on. And a lady came up right after that and saw the accident and flagged the truck down.
The woman who came along really quickly was a nurse. And not only that, but she was mother, and she had cloth diapers in the back of her truck, or her station wagon. So in the old days, they used cloth, and so that's what she used for the tourniquet.
They were concerned for a while that she might have lost her leg, except this lady put a tourniquet on it.
It was a very long operation. I would say 5 hours or more.
At the hospital in San Diego, the Paramount News cameraman is permitted to photograph Miss Connolly so that her friends and fans may see she is her smiling self after surgery.
When Maureen was in the hospital, she had an unexpected visitor, her father, Martin Connolly. Mr. Connolly was alive and well and had been following his daughter's career since their separation 15 years earlier.
Well, it turned out that he had been going to every match that he could, certainly every match in LA. And he just kept quiet. He never came forward until the time of her accident. And he came forward and said that he couldn't stay back. He had to be there for her.
Norman, who was away at sea, arranged and got clearance to come and see Maureen. Their time together was brief, but they decided to renew their engagement.
Not yet 20 years old, she successfully defended her French and Wimbledon titles abroad this year, and only a day before the accident had returned from winning her second national clay court championship. Full recovery and eventual return to competition is the happy verdict. We'll all be waiting, Little Mo.
Norman left for Budapest to compete in the modern pentathlon.
Would you believe that the first day is a riding event, and I was in the lead by several seconds.
He was in first place going into the final round, which was the horseback riding competition, which was his specialty. And about the third jump in, he approached the fence wrong and he fell.
And broke my collarbone, so there I was in the hospital in Salzburg, because I went from Budapest to Salzburg, where the best hospital was.
Recovering from his accident, he finished his term in the Navy and returned to San Diego to start college.
She did everything that she possibly could to come back. She picked up marbles hours at a time with a little toe, trying to strengthen her leg muscles. She took ballet lessons and tap lessons to see if she could get the rhythm back in her game and again to strengthen the leg muscle as she went out and practiced.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you through the medium of newsreels for the wonderful letters and telegrams you sent me, as well as the many flowers. Believe me, folks, you really gave me lots of encouragement, and you have my deepest thanks for everything you've done for me.
For Maureen Connolly, with almost all of tennis's top trophies, retirement.
Medical tests showed that the main artery in Maureen's leg was permanently damaged. With no tolerance for sympathy, she claimed her retirement was due to a sudden lack of interest in the sport. But those who knew her knew better.
I want to thank all of you who've been most kind and have followed me through my career. It's been a wonderful career. I've loved every minute of it, but now my thoughts are turning towards being a housewife.
Who knows where it might have gone if she hadn't had that accident?
Just think how much she accomplished by the time she was 18, 19 years old. And I just wonder, I always wonder how many more titles she would have won. That's always a factor with Maureen. So I think, gosh, she won all those at such a young age. Just how many more would she have won in the 50s if she had been able to keep playing?
Maureen and Norman were married on June 11th, 1955.
And it was a wonderful, exciting time. And she was going to write cover tennis, cover Wimbledon for the London Daily Mail.
Well, this is a honeymoon with a difference, isn't it? You've been married how long now?
Well, married just about 2.5 weeks now. It's quite short, that's true. But
spent most of your time working?
Most of our time working, yes. Poor Norman, he's over in the stands right now, as a matter of fact, way over that away. And he's getting quite a bang out of watching the matches.
After that, we went on a honeymoon in Europe. And really was a magical time.
Maureen was advised by lawyers to take legal action against the cement company whose careless driver ended her competitive career. Maureen won her case, but the tennis world would forever feel the loss. In May of 1957, Norman graduated from college and the young couple had their first child, Cindy. And less than 2 years later, they had their second child, Brenda. Even though her tournament career was over, her tennis days certainly were not. Maureen and good friend Ben Press started teaching together at local clubs.
The club used to pay us to give these free clinics to the members, to the children. And on Saturday, every member's child wanted to come down and take a free tennis lesson from the clinic, because they wanted to say, well, I took a lesson from Maureen. They didn't know me from a load of hay, but Maureen was a big draw.
Maureen was inducted into the San Diego Hall of Champions.
Here she is, one of the world's tennis greats. Little Mo, Maureen Connolly, San Diego, here in the Hall of Fame room. Mo?
Hello, Lute. How are you?
This is a thrill to see your picture in the background, isn't it?
Well, if you think you're thrilled, I am beyond words. Believe me, this is actually the greatest moment of my life. It just defies words to be able to belong to a Hall of Fame, and especially one whose community you belong in, and people have worked with you, and I am very excited over this great day.
Maureen was on the advisory staff for Wilson Sporting Goods and taught tennis clinics all over the country.
I met Maureen Connolly back east. I think it was either Pennsylvania or Long Island. And I was so nervous. I got to meet Maureen Connolly, and then she was going to hit with me, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I was a mess. But she was very nice, and we hit. Then she was tough on me, too, though. She actually gave me a hard time, and I couldn't understand why. And I heard later from somebody else that she had picked me out of all the kids that would have a chance to make it. But she didn't tell me that. I heard it many years later. So I was kind of crushed for a while, because she was actually she was tough on me, and like, who do you think you are? And like, I was so nervous anyway, and I don't know, but I think she probably understood me pretty well, because I'm a real fighter, and if you give me a bad time, I'll try even harder. So I think she probably figured me out within about 30 seconds. that would work with me.
Norman's job with the popular restaurant chain Jack in the Box relocated the family several times before they finally settled in Dallas, Texas.
Then I left and resigned and started Brink's Coffee Shop here in Dallas. It opened in 1964, and then I started Steak and Ale in '66.
Steak and Ale proved to be a wildly successful dining restaurant chain.
We really had a wonderful marriage because we were friends, we were going in the same direction, we were making progress, wonderful things were happening, and so it was all together, just together.
At that time, Maureen was also busy coaching the Texas Junior Whiteman Cup players.
It's always great to be around number ones or former number ones because their philosophy on life and how to win and the work load and all the things that go with it and understanding all the nuances, it just spills over you, you know, it's like, or through osmosis, you pick up stuff from them.
Maureen worked with a handful of professional women tennis players who would come to the Brinker home during their week off the tour.
We'd have a number of them come stay, anywhere from a couple of days to, a week or two. The one that I remember the most that came and visited us quite often was Anne Hayden-Jones, who was from Great Britain.
I used to go to Dallas. In fact, I frequently went to Dallas because I met her and we got very friendly, and she invited me there. And after I'd been there for a while, I got to know the children, Cindy and Brenda, pretty well. And I just, in the end, it used to be a home from home for me, which was nice, actually.
Maureen continued teaching world-class tennis players, but also felt a strong desire to help young tennis players around the country. Like those that helped her along the way, she too wanted to give back and afford children the opportunities to excel in the world of tennis.
And so, with the help of a wonderful friend, Nancy Jeffett, Mom and Nancy started the Maureen Connolly Brinker Tennis Foundation. And the goal was to help provide the means to young players to be able to play this wonderful sport of tennis.
In 1968, she was honored as Dallas Woman of the Year for her work with its youth. In the summer of that year, she was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Little Mo continued her work as a television commentator, traveling all over the world, and still wrote for various publications.
Maureen was really special in that she had a balance to her, like she was very cheerful and very positive, very, like she come into the locker room at Wimbledon, I just loved it. I always, we'd always talk and look out over the courts. But she loved being a mom, and she loved being married to Norman, because she used to talk about that in the locker room and how great he was as a husband, and just loved having her two girls. And so she loved every phase of her life. She really embraced it, and I like that about her. I always remember after speaking with her, listening to her up in that Wimbledon locker room, just a few words she'd say would stay with me.
Years later, I can remember I was captain of the Whiteman Cup team for a couple of years, going to England. This was after I was through playing. And I'd naturally stay for Wimbledon. And Maureen and Norman, her husband, and another couple had been traveling in Europe. And she came out to Wimbledon, and we went in the ladies' members' lounge and had a drink, and we're chatting. And I can remember she showed me her leg where she had had plastic surgery done on it and whatnot, and looked wonderful. And I said, gee, you look really good, Maureen, And this is when she said to me, well, I'm okay in the leg, but she said, I have these terrible, terrible pains in my lower back. And she said, when I get home, I'm going to have some tests done and find out.
In the summer of 1966, Maureen was diagnosed with ovarian cancer.
Ovarian cancer back then, unfortunately as it still is a very difficult cancer to beat, and oftentimes when it's diagnosed, it's in later stages, which is still the case. And back then they used cobalt treatment. They didn't have oncology, they didn't have chemotherapy. It was a very, very tough treatment that she went through.
That's what it was, and they did the operation. They thought they got it all out, and 1 year later then she came down with it again.
My mom and dad, in a last-ditch effort, went to Sloan Kettering to see if there was anything that they could do to eradicate her cancer. And they met with a doctor who at that time was the premier doctor in cancer research. And so he said, Mo, I'm going to put you through a battery of tests for the week, and then you come back and we'll see if there's anything that we can recommend for you. So
they did these tests, and then we went up to see the doctors, and we were on the stoop, and there were 3 doctors there, and they said, Maureen, we want you to know that this is not good, and you have had your best days. Quote, you have had your best days. And so with that, she looked up at the clock at the end of the hallway. She said, oh, I've got to go visit my friend. And she had met this lady who had cataracts and whose family didn't have a family there. And every day she'd go up to see her, and 6 o'clock was the cutoff time for visitation. So I can see her now with her slippers and slip, and a pink kimono. And the doctor looked at me, one doctor, and said, with tears literally running down his eyes, say, Norman, we take care of cancer patients all the time. We've never had anyone with the attitude that Maureen has. Never, never, never. And that's all it was. And she died on the 3rd year. 3 years, almost a day from the time she discovered it, she died.
Little Mo, so quietly brave, lost her battle to cancer on the eve of Wimbledon, June 21st, 1969. She was 34 years old. For the first time in the history of Wimbledon's fortnight, its flag was lowered to half-mast. Anne Hayden-Jones played Billie Jean King in the finals and won.
I was playing at the warm-up tournament in Queen's Club in London, and I sort of progressed through the tournament nicely and got to the final, and I thought, oh, well, when I've won the final, I'll phone Maureen and have a little chat. And by the time I won the final, and then I phoned up, and she'd just died, and so it was a bit of a blow for me personally, just for that to happen just before Wimbledon.
But I just remember how sad I was walking in the streets, thinking that such a legend had passed away so young.
Maureen's spirit was with me a lot of the time, and very much during that particular fortnight.
She was so happy with her life. I can only imagine what she would have done, you know, if she had lived longer. I can only imagine, because she seemed to be the type of person who, when she set her mind to something, she would go after it. She would do it.
I just loved her and adored her, and vice versa. And those things don't happen very often.
I've done a lot of things in tennis, and I've played a lot, but the best thing that ever happened to me in tennis was Maureen. Having my association with her was just super.
Maureen and I were good friends. She was the greatest player that I ever played against, without a doubt.
In 1970, the Maureen Connolly Brinker Tennis Foundation held a memorial tournament for Maureen. All the major women tennis professionals played in the tournament to honor their friend, Little Mo. This tournament eventually became the Virginia Slims of Dallas, one of the stops on the professional women's tennis tour. In 1978, 25 years after her Grand Slam win, she was immortalized in a made-for-TV movie titled Little Mo. The film focused on her fierce determination to become a champion and the obstacles she overcame on her explosive rise to the top.
However, you proved again that size and age need not be handicaps. You've overwhelmed us all with your skill and your courage. I am confident we shall be seeing you many times over.
Thank you, Your Grace. I've been asked what my plans are, and I'm going back to Buckingham Palace and watch the changing of the guards one more time. And then I'm going home to San Diego to work as a copy boy for the San Diego Union.
It's very satisfying to be able to portray someone so wonderful, and then have people come up to me and with admiration, the admiration that of course they feel for Maureen Connolly, but they transfer it onto me, so I get to benefit from it.
I do think that she has made such an impact on so many people, you know, either by the way she played tennis and it inspired someone to play more, or by the way she led her life, both when she was well and when she was ill.
Long after her untimely death, she still touches the youth of today's tennis through her Maureen Connolly Brinker Tennis Foundation.
We want to pass on the ideals that Little Mo had, the good sportsmanship on and off the court. And Little Mo, obviously, at the time she played, did not play for money, only for the love of the game. And that's what we want the kids to enjoy and learn, to love the game.
I hope all the kids understand who Maureen was and her living memory. It's really a legacy that will continue for many, many, many years.
Maureen taught us so many lessons in life and in death, but most of them had nothing to do with tennis. Indeed, her greatest contributions were off the turf of Wimbledon and beyond the hallowed gates of Forest Hills. Her examples of courage in spite of her circumstances, of humility in spite of her fame, and of investing back in the lives of others in spite of her daily demands are her greatest legacy.
I think Maureen Connolly would have made a huge difference in the whole last 30 years or 40 years of tennis, because she would have shown that you can dominate a sport, you can be the best in the world at a sport, and still be a wonderful, sweet, caring, sensitive, courteous, polite, respectful, attractive woman. I mean, she was rare.
People say Little Mo could still hold her own, even against today's toughest players.
It'll be very exciting to see her play against some players today. If you were to move her forward into this age, I'd love to know if she really truly could compete.
Maureen hit the ball harder than any women tennis players until the Williams came along. But you got to remember, Maureen was using a wooden racket. If she had had the advantage of the new innovations that came along, Maureen Connolly would undoubtedly be the finest women's tennis player of all time.
Each generation pushes the next generation to be better. It's like young people watching Serena and Venus and Lindsay Davenport, Monica Seles today are saying, I can do that, I can be better than that, and they will be.
She played tennis for one reason and one reason only, because she loved it.
In the history of tennis, only 5 players have won the Grand Slam, and she was the first woman and still the youngest to have ever done that.
Off the court, she was the kindest, gentlest, most gracious person in the world. But when she got on that court, absolutely merciless.
She had no mercy, you know, no mercy at all.
A metamorphosis the like of which you couldn't believe.
She didn't take it easy.
She was unbeatable. She never lost.
Never came close to losing.
She could hit the dime and give you nice ends change.
There's only one point that counts, and that's who wins the last one. The ones you remember the most were not the ones you won, but the ones you lost.
It is amazing in just a few short years how much she was able to accomplish.
She loved tennis with passion.
She was a deep individual with enormous reserves of strength.
She was inspirational and she was modest and she was good. I say, and she was good for tennis.
It was a privilege to have had that moment in time with Maureen Connolly.
She is simply unforgettable.